Welcome back to Conversation with Buddy. I'm your host, Buddy Puckett. Thank you so much for being here this week and every week. We appreciate you. Question, what is a good marriage? And what is a bad marriage? And then last question is, how's your marriage? We're going to talk about marriage today, as you can probably tell. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to introduce you to my guest and my friend. His name is Nelson Adams. Welcome, Nelson.
Thank you.
How you doing, bro?
I'm up.
You're up.
Yep.
I said, you got up early this morning. I said, well, what's early? You said
8, anything before 8.
Anything before 8.
Yeah.
So what time did you get up?
I got up at 7:45.
7:45?
Yeah. I have an excuse though. It's because I don't sleep well. And you're trying to help me out with that. So
yeah. Why don't you sleep well? Tell us.
I have a deviated septum, so I mouth breathe all night long, and it just gets so dry, and then I have to wake up because I can't, swallow because my mouth is so dry. Have to get water. But every blue moon, I'll get a full night's sleep, and it feels incredible. But yeah.
No kidding. This has been going on for how long?
I think it's increased throughout my lifetime, but I would say it's gotten the worst since I turned 30. So it's been pretty bad for about 5 years because I'm 35.
You're 35. I forget that you're 35. I still feel like you're like 28.
I have to keep facial hair.
So you look like you're 20?
Yes.
You do. I mean, it's a good thing. You look like you're 20, 25, something like that.
Yeah, I feel 18.
Okay, good. That's good. Well, we're going to dive in and talk about Nelson. You and I have been meeting, well, we've known each other for maybe a decade or so, would you say? Is it 8 or 10 years?
Yeah, actually almost 10 years because I met you when I was 26 when I was buying my first house. So,
okay. Yeah.
So it's almost been 10 years. It's kind of crazy.
It's crazy. Time flies. I've always enjoyed hanging out with you. It's always been fun.
Yeah.
And then you and I reconnected recently, just grab coffee and
yeah, you came out of nowhere. My mom was needing your help with something, and I didn't. She said that you weren't with Pacific Residential anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have their number. And then I think as soon as I got off, after I sent that text to my mom, it was like God's work. You were calling me. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, it was just a day I was making calls, and you were on my list. I've been thinking about you for a long time anyway. I mean, it's been 3 or 4 years ago since we had met for coffee.
Yeah, I think you would meet up with me every like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And it was a really good meetup. And every time I would leave, I'm like, man, I feel like I need more of this. But then life gets in the way. A week and a year go by. But now you and I are meeting. About once a month.
What are we doing?
Just meeting up in the morning, getting coffee, talking scripture, talking life, getting wisdom from Buddy.
Well, hopefully I'm just pointing you to scripture because on my own, there's no hope for you if you're getting wisdom from me. But you and I are going through the book of James, and it's a great book. And hopefully, so we started just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I read a couple this week. I've been reading a ton this month, so it's been kind of hard to fit things in. But I appreciate the challenge.
The challenge. That's my job, is to challenge you. You're challenging me, and so we'll challenge each other and to be in the Word more. And so it's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's dive in and hear about Nelson. I know you pretty well. I know your story pretty well, but I think I'm going to learn something, and I think the audience will learn something. And we'll talk about homelessness. We'll talk about, coffee, because you worked at Dutch Bros for a while.
Yep.
We'll talk about marriage. We'll talk about disc golf. We'll kind of run the gamut.
All right.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, take us back to, where did you grow up, and what was life like with early on in life with because you have, I'm going to let you tell the story, but you have siblings.
Yep.
And what life was like early on. So just walk us through that.
So I was born in California, Fremont, California. I've never been. My mom says it's not a good place, so I'll just take her word for it. And then we moved to Oregon probably when I was around 1 or 2. And we lived in Scio, and just out on 5 acres, kind of on a slope. So the whole 5 acres was on a slope, and we had horses, 3-story log cabin. I mean, it was like the kid's dream, just because my mom would tell us to go outside, and get out of the house. And it was pretty easy to do, make forts and all that. And I had 5 brothers and sisters, or 2 older sisters and 2 younger brothers. So I'm the middle child, the cream filling, the best part. And that was, that was our life for a long time. And we lived there for about till 1999. And then that's when my parents split up for whatever reasons those are. They all have kind of like their own side. And I tend to believe my mom more than I believe my dad, just because throughout time, evidence proves itself. So after the divorce, life quickly changed. My dad ended up going to prison for money embezzlement. And so I think that the income was hard on my mom. Mm-hmm. So she was job searching. My family was also very into horses. I dislike horses because I was the kid that wanted to be on bikes all day long, and that got in the way of it. So, we eventually had to move out of that house, and for a short few months, we were living with someone in their house. It didn't work out. Basically, every place we went to was a place to also stable the horses. So I kind of have a lot of problem with that, because it's like wherever we went, the horses went. Horses are incredibly expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was like, part of the deal for my mom. And it kind of goes towards her past and, her childhood. Everything makes more sense now. But as a kid, you're like, what the heck? Get rid of these horses, man. So at one point we were living in fields on someone's property who also wasn't really well off. And I actually forgot about this part. It was only the boys that were living in tents. The girls lived in a small mobile trailer. And but I completely forgot about that. So to my knowledge, I thought we were all in tents. But this was just for a summer, but it felt like a long time and really kind of crazy experience. And I remember being young. I was like 9 or 10 and just being like, man, I don't know whatever I have to do, but I don't ever want to be back in this like situation. This sucks. I don't want to live like this. And I always had that mentality at a young age, just like, this sucks. I don't want to ever be back here. So a lot of my goal in life was just to like not be back where I started. And so yeah, eventually we got, a house out in Marion, single wide home, mobile home, terrible junk place. But again, my mom's a single parent of 5 and was working like 2 to 3 jobs. So she was just doing whatever she could to provide for us. And as a kid, you just don't understand these things. You become bitter towards your parents and like, get rid of these dang horses and let's have a better life. So it's kind of weird. I don't think about these things very often. I try to keep them away. It's not a very pleasant memory for me. And sometimes I catch myself like wondering like if I made that up or if that's true. So I'll talk to my siblings about it every now and then, just confirm, because it is kind of a wild thing to think about.
Okay, so how old were you when your mom and dad first divorced?
I believe it was 9.
9, okay.
I remember that pretty well. I remember that day very well, actually. My dad was packing stuff in his car, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? And he was like, oh, I'm just going to leave, but I'll be back. And that wasn't the case. And I remember him driving down our driveway, see him go, and there was tears. And my little brother, Glenn, was crying, and I just said, like, it'll be okay. He said he's coming back. Didn't come. Well, he did come back in like a nicer car, so that was kind of weird. And then later on, went to prison and just. How
much later did he go to prison?
Probably a year or 2. It was pretty quick. Yeah. He ended up turning himself in for the fraud.
Okay, so and the horses were your mom's passion?
Oh yeah,
and not your siblings necessarily,
and not my dad's. Definitely not my dad's.
Okay.
So long story short, these are 2 people that should have probably never been married, because I think they wanted opposite things. And which is funny because, throughout my life of dating people, that was like the number one thing. Like when I went on a date with someone, that was like number one question is like, do you want horses or have aspirations of having horses in your life?
No.
If the answer is no, we can move on. If it's yes, we're going to end it right here.
No kidding.
Yeah, you could ask my wife.
Defining moment.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you said it. You said that they shouldn't have got married. They were too different, or they were opposite.
Yeah, in my view, it was pretty clear.
It's interesting. Well, I would say every time we pick the woman that's actually different than us. Opposite, which is interesting. We fall in love with this person that's opposite of us, and then years later, we're like, oh, we're so opposite. And I see people go through divorce because they're so opposite. But that's how God designed it. You're a guy. She's a girl. You're different. You come from different homes. You're different genders, and you're opposite.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that's the piece that God uses to keep us humble. And so
I agree with that.
So I don't think any marriage, I think every marriage is husband, wife, or opposite. Every marriage I see, I'm like, they're challenged.
It almost works better that way, because if you have someone that's the same as you, that could be bad.
If you married you, Nelson, how well would that work out?
Oh man, I don't think that'd be very good at all.
If you have 2 the same person, it is like, it doesn't work, right? So I always ask that just because, if God designed marriage, and I think he did, would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And we get married and we say, hey, nothing will separate us, right? Mm-hmm. If God brought us together, then nothing can make us separate. So is divorce God's design? It's just maybe a rhetorical question to let the audience think about, because everybody has an opinion, but would you say you've been married now for how long?
Been married for 3 years.
Yeah, it's a piece of cake, right? Everything's perfect?
2 years.
And everything's perfect?
No.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Surprise.
Yeah. And we're going to get there. We're going to get to what I want to talk about is not what is a good marriage or bad marriage, but what is a godly marriage. Because would you say it's almost nearly impossible to stay married without knowing God or have a relationship?
I would say it definitely helps to have a relationship with God through marriage, because there's tons of trials and tribulations going through it.
Yeah.
Even though I've only been married for 2, I've been with my wife for 6 years. So I'd rather just say that, because I hate having to distinguish the two. Like, 4, we've been together 6, but married 2. Like, I'm just going to say 6.
Perfect. Yeah. That's I love it. I love it. All right, go back. So your mom is trying to raise you and your 4 other siblings.
Yes.
Did you say you had 2 older sisters and 2 younger?
2 older sisters, 2 younger brothers.
But you're right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
That's funny. Maybe I told you. I always tell the story, but my dad has 8 brothers and 5 sisters. And he's right in the middle too, but there's 14. So he's the number 7. The 7 and 8 are the 2 middle people, Mm-hmm. So it's kind of funny. Well, similar. There's a middle child. You ever heard of the birth order book?
No.
Yeah, it might be interesting for you to really check out. There's a book, Christian book, talks about birth order, what a firstborn looks like, what a middle child looks like, what a secondborn looks like, different gaps of ages. For me, I'm always fascinated by. Typically, a firstborn will marry a secondborn. For instance, I'm a secondborn. I married my wife. She's a firstborn. My daughter's a secondborn. She married a firstborn. And so typically, that's what happens. I'm not saying a firstborn doesn't marry a firstborn.
Yeah.
But typically...
I had to think about that. I was like, oh, is my wife a middle child?
Where is she?
She's the youngest.
Of how many?
3.
Okay, what's the...
3 biological. She has stepbrothers and sisters, but I can't keep track of that.
3. What's the age difference between her and her oldest or middle, her next up sibling?
Oh man. So I think the age gap between her and the oldest is, oh man, I hope she doesn't watch this. I think it's like 5 or 6 years.
Okay, and then the middle, because there's a middle.
Yeah, and then the middle,
couple years maybe.
Shoot, yeah, I'm actually not quite sure.
Yeah, doesn't matter. She's the youngest. You're a middle child.
I would say they're all separated by 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Possibly.
How many years between you and your next siblings closest to you?
So I think my oldest sister is in her 40s. So she's either 40, 41, 42. And then the next sister from that, which is the closest to me, is probably 2 years difference than me. So she's 37. Probably 37. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Glenn, who's the brother below me, he is in his 30s. I think there's only 2 or 3 years from us. And then my youngest brother is 30, 31.
Who are you?
29.
29. That'd be younger than Glenn.
Yeah.
Who are you closest with?
I'm closest with my brothers at this point. But through the divorce, man, it totally just shreds families apart. It just caused a lot of turmoil. I wasn't really close to my sisters, but me and my brothers, we would kind of go through it, especially Glenn when he got taller. He started getting more kind of combative, but he had some anger issues that never got dealt with. And just so we really had some rough times there because he was taller than me. So he was always thought that he could pick on me. Didn't go very well.
Didn't go very well.
Yeah. Sorry, Glenn, if you're seeing this.
Yeah.
And then John, he was kind of just quiet.
Yeah.
But now we all get along really well, especially me and Glenn, because me and Glenn were probably at each other's throats a lot.
Yeah. Well, you're boys, man. You're going to fight, duke it out.
Over stupid stuff, too.
Yeah.
Just really thinking about it. I never really instigated it, but I'll just put that on the record.
That's what we'll talk to Glenn. We'll see what Glenn says.
Yeah, but wow, they have really turned around. They're great men now, and both own houses, have a reliable job. So super proud of them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my sisters are still kind of going through their own timeline.
Yeah.
So. And we don't really speak to my oldest sister much.
What's her name, your oldest sister?
Barbara.
Next one down?
Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's your mom doing?
She's a savage, man.
She's tough.
She is tough. She's had a rough life.
Yeah.
She still gets up at 3 a.m. She's not gonna like this either, but she's 60, and she still gets up at 3 a.m. to work out. And I'm like you're doing some.
She is a savage.
Yeah. And I think I get some of that from her. Unfortunately, I can see a lot of me in her.
Why is that unfortunate?
I think we both had kind of some rough past, and it's hard to let that go. But we also have like extreme drive to get us through that, and it could be hard to sometimes manage the anger part of it. But like I said, she still gets up at 3 a.m. to work out, and I was just thinking like, oh, you're going for walks, maybe some light cardio. No, she's lifting weights. I'm like,
she is tough.
Chill out.
Well, whenever I ever talk to your mom, she loves you guys. I mean, her love for her kids it's real, just like any mom, right?
Totally.
So I appreciate that. What do you think the trait is? Is there any traits that you took from your dad that are positive? Is there any traits you took from your mom that are, you go, yep, absolutely positive? What would those be?
I could name from my mom. My dad's side, I just don't know because I didn't have much of a relationship with him. And it'd be unfair to say that he didn't do stuff with us, but the memories are far from few. So he was somewhat there when we were kids before the divorce. Like I do remember memories of him playing with us. But I don't have like anything as far as like, teaching me how to be a man, how to treat a woman, this and that. But my mom really had to do both sides of the male and female part. Unfortunately, she was more on the male part. So she was rough on me. But I didn't get a lot of the mother tenderly like care. So I think that's probably why it's harder for me to learn to be patient and soft, and I'm easier and quicker to be like rough and demanding and just deal with it, like suck it up. Partially because what I saw my mom go through, and so maybe me just growing up with that and seeing like, oh, this is how you get through things. You just drive through it.
Well, so I have mom and dad. My mom died about 11 years ago, and just to challenge the thinking too, because my mom was probably a lot like your mom, just tough. My dad, he worked and he was busy.
Did your mom have biceps and traps?
Nope. She worked hard. Like she raised, she did all the cooking, cleaning. She worked a job and so did my dad, but she did I think she did a lot more, probably as a mom. And so she was tough too. But, I have patience issues. I can have anger issues. You know what I mean? So I don't think you and I are that far apart.
Probably not.
And I would say good home, bad home, we're all wired with a lack of patience. I think patience is a virtue that only comes from God. I don't think we just naturally, hey, I'm just so patient. Maybe God wires people that way. I'm sure he does. I was not wired with patience. I'm like, I have a drive and I can be really impatient.
Yeah.
So that might be influenced by our moms or growing up for sure. But I think also God wires us to have a drive.
Yeah.
We're guys. We want to get things done. So what's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that. I think a lot of it comes, just through some of the premarital counseling that me and my wife did. We learned a lot about our childhood and how a lot of that reflects on how your character has grown and how you become a person. So a lot of like my own problems I know come from my childhood and just, the environment factors of that. So I self-reflect a lot, maybe too much. But I just know a lot of those maybe bad habits come just from, my background as being a kid.
You said self-reflection. And this is a fun podcast, by the way, to do. And I learn things, but I also want to ask great questions too.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a podcast, and it was interesting hearing, I don't even remember who it was, to be honest with you, but we talked about some of those things that we grew up with, like the past, like, oh, this happened, therefore that's why I do it today. And sometimes what's connected to the past is unforgiveness. Like there's a little bit of resentment, like, we're carrying the past into the future, or we're holding it like a little baby and we're not quite letting go because maybe there's an element of unforgiveness. I'm not saying you per se. I'm just saying we as people, we love to bring, but
yeah,
you have no idea how I grew up and it was really rough. We all have a past. I promise you, everybody that's listening has a past. And I think we're all guilty of hanging on to a little bit of that past. Like it almost helps us justify what we don't do today.
Yeah, totally.
For me. And so I have to be careful. Like, you know what, whatever happened, good or bad here, I don't know if you're a state champion wrestler or your parents went through a divorce, good or bad. We can live in the past a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So that's just, and so for me, what I realized a couple weeks ago when I heard this story is that depression, when people are depressed, they're actually thinking about the past, but they're stuck in the past because that unforgiveness has kept them there.
Guilty.
That's just, I mean, it was,
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought depression was thinking about, things of the past that happened, but I never really thought about the unforgiveness. Like, is there any unforgiveness? And it's just a rhetorical question for you and I and the audience to think about. But anyway.
Well, it really feels good to forgive. It actually takes a tremendous amount of weight out of you. Because I carried around a lot of anger about my dad, and I never showed it to him. I couldn't tell you why. Maybe it's because I just didn't have enough facts to really call him out on it. And, after he got out of prison, we would go over to his apartment a lot, and he would always take us out to movies, and he would take us to the park and stuff and play video games with us. But it just, for some reason, it just didn't really feel like my father. Still felt more like a friend, because maybe we didn't have like deep one-on-one talks or anything about that. Yeah. And both my parents are Christian. Even my dad, even though it still kind of confuses me, just seeing how the choices he's made in his own life. And I would say he's better now, but there still is a massive gap. But anyway, I just remember one day working Kona, I was driving, and I just broke down in tears because I knew that I needed to forgive my dad to get rid of like this pain and this anger that I've been, keeping in. And I remember, I think I had maybe had a talk with my mom a couple of days before, and she said that forgiveness is not for me, it's for the other person. And so to forgive my dad would actually help me out to like live and let go. And so I was prepared to call him up and just like lay it out, but I have a problem remembering all the, the juicy bits. So I just wrote him a long email, and then he ended up calling me shortly after. Yeah. And so, long story short, I just told him like, I forgive you for all that you did. I don't know all the facts, and I don't really care at this point. I just want you to be the father that I need at this point. And so I told him like, I'm giving you, a blank slate, and I would just like to start fresh. And it was good for about a month, and then kind of just went back to normal. Like for me as a kid, I don't want to get text messages from my father or like a Facebook comment. I would like to hear from my parents and talk on the phone and like, hey, how's it going? And just all this stuff. So getting a text message, maybe I'm old school, but it just seems more personal to me than just getting a text message. So me and my mom have a good relationship with that, but my dad, he just kind of went back to his old ways, and I couldn't tell you why.
How long was your dad in prison?
I think 5 years.
Okay, so from 10 to 15 your age, he was in prison. When did that 1 month of clean slate, when did that begin?
Oh man, not for another 10 years. So I was.
Oh, so you were 25-ish.
It was shortly after starting Kona. So it might have been when I was 26 or 27. So it was quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
What caused you to finally go, hey, Dad? What was the conviction?
Oh man. I don't know. I think just always kind of thinking about, me needing a father and how I didn't really ever have a father, even though that's a lie. I did, but I didn't have, that father figure that you see in the movies. Maybe it could be Hollywood, a lot of it. You see in the movies how like the father's wrestling with the son or showing him his first shave or, et cetera, et cetera. But I think I was just lacking a lot of that. And so I thought maybe, just having that talk and telling him I forgive him, let's start clean would really turn things around. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the person. And I did have a great stepfather. And so I think that kind of helped fill in the gaps. But unfortunately, he passed away shortly into my mom's marriage with him for other reasons. And so, but I do have great memories of a good stepfather. And he was probably the closest thing to his father to me, besides my grandpa, who I probably looked up to the most as a father figure.
Your mom's dad.
My mom's dad, yeah.
Gotcha.
And we only got to see him about once a year because they lived in California.
Okay. There's a saying, it's like, you can be a father, but to be a dad is different. A lot of people father children, but they're not dad. Yeah. It's kind of what, your dad was a father, and he gave, help conceive you.
Yeah.
But to be the dad, he was not. Question though, what was his upbringing like? Did he have a role model in his life to help him be a man or be the right dad that God called him to be?
I know his biological father died when he was really young. I think he was maybe 3 or 4. And then he had a stepfather for the remainder of his life, who was, my grandfather.
Okay.
But I really don't know a whole lot about my dad's past.
Gotcha. Again, not to make excuses for people, because your dad still has a choice on how he lives.
Yeah.
We all do. Like, doesn't matter what happened a week or a month or 27 years ago. You get to live out your life today based upon what you know, the truth.
Yeah.
Right? We can all hang on to the past, and we make excuses for whatever we do. Oh, I still drink because, my dad drank, or whatever it is, But we all have a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
That actual come to Jesus, like, do you believe and did you live for Jesus? So,
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about high school. Because you were homeschooled until high school.
Well, I put quotes because, again, my mom was not fond of public schooling system, which, now being an adult, I can agree with that.
100%.
But she homeschooled us, but mainly, this is a single mother of 5 working 2 jobs. And so this was in, mid 2000s, early 2000s, shortly after 9/11.
Yeah.
There was some PC, like homeschooling curriculum.
Yeah.
But you're not there as a parent to help, make sure they're not cheating. So you're expecting children to hold themselves accountable. And I'll tell you what, I did not care. All I wanted to do was ride my bike and play. I could care less about curriculum. So so basically from a young age till about high school, I didn't really have much of a curriculum. I was just cheating, and my mom was doing the best she could to provide. So maybe not on her radar. She also has 5 kids. Good luck.
Your mom, bless her heart.
Yeah.
She did what she had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line.
Oh, totally, absolutely. Which, as an adult, way easier to see the choices she made.
Yeah.
Like I said, as a kid, you just, are ridiculing
Sell
her.
the horse, Mom.
Seriously, my gosh. So when I had to go to high school, it was incredibly stressful and probably a lot of anxiety the first day. Like, I'll never forget the first day, because I'm going to a school. I don't even know where my classes are. Riding the bus for the first time. The bus ride felt extremely long because I had a lot of anxiety looking back at it, and just learning to fit in. I was kind of I was somewhat outgoing as a kid, but there was a lot of social dialect. Yeah. So I had to learn everything very, very quick. Mm-hmm. It was kind of fight or flight for me. And so just the 4 years of high school, it got a little better towards my senior year. But thankfully, I had played soccer in junior high, even though being homeschooled, because you could still do that.
Yeah.
So I knew some kids at my school, but it was such a struggle, because I didn't, like, a lot of kids, they learned a lot of things that we were being taught in high school back in middle school, like, who's the president, the history, math, and I didn't. I kind of had to learn everything in that 4 years. So I didn't get good grades. I treated high school like prison. Like, I'm in here for 4 years and I'm out, and I didn't really care to make too many friends. I didn't really care for a lot of people in my high school, because there's just a lot of fakeness. I played soccer. We were made fun of it in our high school for playing soccer. You were like pretty much cool if you played football, whether you sucked or not. You were a cool kid, right? Automatically. And I was just a kid that rode BMX a lot. So, high school, very rough. I still have nightmares about it, at least twice a year, that I have to go back to school and finish it. And it sucks. It's so real. So,
and what high school did you go to?
Cascade High School out in Turner.
Okay.
In the middle of a cornfield. Yeah. Straight up.
Sounds like a rough time. High school's probably tough for every kid. We're all insecure. We're unsure. There's clicks going on. So there's nothing easy about high school. But then for your standpoint, your mom's working 2 jobs, your dad's gone, and it's just you and your siblings.
Yeah.
So do you guys, as siblings, kind of go to high school together, or you just feel like all alone?
So the age gapping was enough to where me and my sister Kelly were close enough to where as I was a freshman, she was like a junior. So there was a little bit of help there, but not much.
Yeah.
And then my two younger brothers, they didn't go to high school. So they went to public middle school for a little bit. And then in high school, they did, I think the youngest brother, John, did Connections Academy, which was a better form of homeschooling. Mm-hmm. Still didn't work out great. And then Glenn, I think he did Connections Academy as well, but ended up doing alternative school to finish it. So all of us had, like, my oldest sister went to Scio High School because of the time, the age gap.
Yeah. And
then me and Kelly went to Turner. And then John and Glenn did online basically. So everybody, every single one of us was different.
Here's the deal. Education's great. What you learn in 12 years is good, but really education begins after high school, owning a business, getting married,
100% agree with that.
Reading books, watching YouTubes.
Yeah.
I think of a guy like Les Schwab. He's a real guy, right? I'm pretty sure in his book, he graduated from the 8th grade and never went back.
Yeah.
And created a $1 billion company. So I think the whole idea of learning in 12 years, if you get through the 12 years and get straight A's and you never stop or you never continue learning, I think you're going to have a miserable life.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody who barely graduates from high school, has a drive, starts a business, gets married, continues learning, wants to be sharpened. Which life do you want?
I'll take that one over. Yeah.
Here's the deal. I was like you. I was in the trailer out back. I was barely getting C's. I didn't read well. I stuttered. I was that kid. I needed all the help I get. And I didn't learn well. My sister got straight A's, by the way. She was older than me. So I've always had to work really hard at everything I've done. And I wouldn't change that for one thing.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny you say about the didn't read well and stuttered. Yeah. Man, that's probably why I forced myself to read more now, is because of that. And I talk so fast sometimes. I stutter. I slur my words. Ongoing thing that I struggle with and try to work around. But yeah, I definitely learned way more after high school than I did in school. And I think part of that is I got to choose when I wanted to learn. So like history and other things like that, I am more in tune with, and I soak it in better versus when I was in high school, they're demanding that you read this, demanding that you learn this. And I was just like, I don't care.
Stick a fork in my eye.
Yeah.
Please. Well, that's why, we all get through our prerequisites in college, the first couple of years, and like doing all the dumb classes we don't want and barely getting by. Then we get into actually the area that we want to study. I actually got a degree, and I don't know what I learned. If I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Because everything I learned was antiquated. It was old, right? By the time I got out of college, everything I learned is outdated.
Yeah.
But the things I was interested in is business, management, marketing, finance. And, but honestly, college didn't even teach me that. It wasn't until I actually got in the real world that I actually started learning. I started going to seminars, reading books, kind of like where you're at now. You're reading more books than ever.
Yep.
You're excited. So, okay. So after the high school years, you graduate, what do you do?
My mom was very insistent on me going to college, which I had a huge problem with because it's hard for me to take advice from people that haven't taken it themselves. And so my mom, she very adamant on going to college. I could care less. But I saw that, this is coming from a parent that had a college degree, but isn't using it. She went for animal science, wanted to be a vet, I believe. Hence her just like loving horses and animals in general. And so for me, I was like, wait a minute. So you want me to go to college? You went to college, but you didn't use your degree. You're, working at UPS, and, I think she also worked at a grass seed factory. And so I was like, why should I go? Like, if this is the path that you want me to go down, well, it seems like a waste of time. And I did one term at LBCC. It was chaotic because I somehow got a scholarship for maybe like $800, which when the school told me that I had a scholarship, I was like, what? Are you sure you got the right person? But it turns out that $800 barely even paid for all my books. So I was working at UPS, and I would work from 2 or 3 in the morning till 8 or 9 in the morning. I would go straight from there to LBCC, because I worked at UPS in Albany or near Corvallis. So I'd get to school around 9 or 10. I didn't have class till 1. I would sleep in my car, and then I would wake up, go to class, get out of class around 5 or 6, go home. And by the time I get home, it's, close to 7 o'clock. I don't have time to do homework. Well, I did, but it's like I have had no life.
Well, you haven't slept at all either.
Yeah, not really. Oh, yeah. I mean, waking up at 2 a.m, I was going to bed at midnight because I was a young kid. And I still struggle going to bed early. I just have a really active mind and feel like I'm missing out on something. So just doing that for one term, I was like, I am done. I am not doing any more of this. And all I could think about was riding BMX. So that was also invasive in my mind. Is like, I'm trying to study, but all I can think about is like where I'm riding next, maybe what I'm working on. And also UPS was just such a depressing, hard job. Probably one of the hardest jobs I ever worked, because I wasn't a driver. I was unloading the trailers or sometimes loading 3 or 4 trucks at a time. So people think that you're just loading one truck. No, you're loading 3 or 4 trucks at a time.
That's a lot of packages. Yeah.
On top of going to school, it was just I was very depressed. And so I also wasn't making enough money to move out. So that's why my next goal was like, I'm almost 21. I'm still living at home. Not really. I mean, I'm just sleeping there. I need to find a job that gets me to move out, because I cannot live at home anymore. I need to get out.
Yeah. Is your brother still at home at that point in time? I assume your sisters had moved on by then?
My sisters were in and out. They would leave. Something would happen. They moved back. My little brothers, I just didn't really pay too much attention to it. As soon as I was out of the house, I was kind of just gone.
Yeah, I get it.
But when it was time for me to move out, I gave myself kind of an ultimatum. It was like, you either make this work or you will go live under a bridge before you go back home. I didn't have a great home life. I just did not want to ever go back. Kind of going back to the whole like living in tents. I knew I didn't ever want to go back to there. My mom was also very controlling of, she didn't want me to date till I was in college.
Okay.
And again, I think this kind of goes back to me filling in, parts of my heart, because my mom had to be very, strong for us. So there wasn't a whole lot of tender, loving care there. And I think I was lacking that. That's why I was like really wanting a girlfriend, to fill in those spots. So, being like 18 or 19, I couldn't like bring over a girl to the house. I was like, I'm out. I need to have a life. So, I moved out and I never moved back in. So I think I'm the only sibling to never move back, and I'm pretty proud of that.
As a parent, I see a lot of kids moving back in with mom and dad, and mom and dad, or mom or dad, whichever, let little Johnny or little Susie come back in just as much as they want. My opinion, I don't know what you think about this. I'm like you. I'm like, I'm not moving home. I will live under the bridge. Love you, mom and dad. Can't move back home. But I see a lot of parents letting their kids move back in just as, they're having a hard time. But is that helping the kids, the young adult who's 18, 19, 20, 25, 30, move back home? Does that help them to just let them move in every time they have a hard time?
The short answer is I don't think so. So no. It's also harder. It's a different, culture out there right now. It's hard to live on your own. I mean, you'd probably have to live with 3 or 4 roommates at this point just to afford an apartment.
I get it. Yeah.
But I do remember seeing, I was watching a Netflix documentary about sushi, and it was the number 1 sushi chef in the world. And it's been so long, but basically he said, he told his kids exactly what I told myself. Like, hey, once you are ready to leave the nest, that's it. You cannot come back. You need to make sure that you are going to do good enough and be successful enough to not have to come back to me. This cannot be, there cannot be a reason you're coming back. And all of his kids have been incredibly successful. And I do wonder how much of that is just giving them the ultimatum. But I gave that ultimatum to myself.
I like that. You're probably like the first generation in your family to go, okay, you're not coming back. This is my ultimatum.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure my mom was kind of the same way because, just she had similar problems in her own family, wanting horses so badly, didn't really get that. So, my BMX life was like her horse life.
Yeah.
So I think I think my mom share a lot of common things.
You do.
Physically too, which is unfortunate for me because I didn't think I looked like anybody in my family. And then there was one year we were holding a BMX Halloween jam, and I was dressing up as Joe Dirt. And
You look like your mom.
I put the wig on in the mirror, and I was like, "Oh no,
You're your mother.
yeah, I could see it now."
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's unfortunate. I mean, you have your mom's genes. So.
Yeah, I at the time had a lot of resentment against my family. Just a lot of rough times. Not a lot of love. And divorce does that. It will just tear all that apart.
Yeah. Well, I know those are tough, and I think what's the number? 50% of marriages end in divorce. So
Sounds about
there's
right.
a lot of wrecked families out there. But God can still work through that, though, don't you think?
Absolutely.
And God's working in your life.
Yeah.
Okay. Take me back to the BMX days. So I think you and I were sharing, because I didn't love BMX quite as much as you, but I love BMX. I had my first bike at 10, and I told you got stolen and had a bike shop or whatever. But tell me about your early days of BMX. When did you know that you loved BMX and why?
Oh man, I can remember as clear as day. So I was 6 years old. I had the television on, and I was like sitting in my dog's bed because it was like a mini couch. It was kind of cool as a kid. And I just remember seeing Nyquist and Dave Mira riding their bikes in the X Games. And I couldn't tell you exactly what it was about BMX that I loved. Maybe it was like the freedom of expression, but it was just also just something so cool about these guys hitting these ramps, spinning, flipping. And I was like, that is what I want to do. And so from age 6 till I was like 31, 30, I rode BMX a ton, and I have tons of, injuries, lots of skin missing. I traveled a lot. I think that was the other reason I liked it, because I got to meet people. It actually really helped me excel in the social aspect. And, riding BMX, you can have a nice bike and all that, but can you ride it? And I was still poor. So I've had more bikes than I've had cars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I would break parts a lot and couldn't afford them. So there was a time period where riding brakeless on your bike was becoming a big fad. And basically, if you could do the same trick as someone else without brakes, you got more props for that. Well, I rode brakeless not because of it being popular, but because my brakes broke and I couldn't afford new brakes. So I just was like, well, I guess I'm going to learn how to do this.
This is cool.
Yeah. Little did I didn't even know that was kind of a blessing in some sense, because I rode a lot of dirt jumps. That was what I was really into, was riding dirt jumps. And I would go ride new trails with some of my friends, and they would go to test a jump and they'd pull their brakes, right? And then here's me with no brakes. And I'm like, watch this. I'm just going to hit this first try. So it was really scary, but knowing that I didn't have a choice. There was no choice. There was no braking. I was either full sending it, and I was either going to learn how to bail or just make it work. And that worked to my advantage. So it pushed me without like having some safety in some sense. So I just learned how to push myself without thinking about like, I basically equated to not testing the waters before you jump in, which isn't always good.
I'm like you, man, just jump in. It's kind of like riding a roller coaster when you're like about ready to go over the edge, and it's just this steep.
Yeah.
But you can't stop it. Like you're going. Like,
Yeah.
ah!
Yeah.
And so I like that. That's good, man. That's brave. Worst crash you ever had?
That would be when I blew out my knee. So it was at the Albany skate park. Bikes weren't allowed at the Albany skate park for a very long time. And I had known some people that were riding there, and I started to go ride Albany a lot more. They had bigger quarters to learn to air. And just the guys that were riding there were really into BMX. So I wanted to hang out with them more. And I learned a lot from them. But there was a gap there that was pretty difficult, and you had to take a certain way around the skate park just to get speed to hit this gap. And I had done it quite a few times. And then one summer, also the skaters, big beef against BMX. I couldn't tell you why. It's just the stupidest thing in the world. But they made it clear that they did not like bikers there. Anyway, so one summer I was hitting this gap, or I was going through, the whole routine to hit this gap, and this skater who's been known to fight a lot. So I was trying to stay away from him. He was getting in my way of my run, and it happened 3 times in a row. And so like the third time I'm coming around to do this gap, and he is about to cut me off again, and it really irritated me. So I just went for it anyway. I ended up overshooting it, and I was really bad about bailing off my bike. I was like pretty much riding it through it. Such a bad habit. Looking back on it, should have learned how to bail.
Yeah.
So you only have, microseconds to make that decision. Am I going to bail, or am I going to try and land this thing?
Yeah.
And so I was off angle, and I end up landing in a way to where my knee folded sideways. So not like, your knee pivots like this. Well, it pivoted like this, and it snapped to my hip, and it was just excruciating pain. So much pain that I was dry heaving from all the adrenaline and just blowing out my leg. And I remember the kids at the skate park like, hey, you want to call the ambulance? And I was like, no, because I can't afford an ambulance. So I had help getting out of the skate park. My knee was just messed up. And then after a half hour, I was like, oh, it seems to feel better. And I go to like stand up, and it just gives out. I'm like, oh, this is not good. So, but it didn't hurt enough to need to go to the hospital immediately.
Are you kidding me?
So we went to another skate park, and I drove myself, and the pain was manageable. So we went to another skate park. I just kind of hung out. And then I was living in Salem at the time. So we were down in Corvallis at this point.
And how old are you here?
I think it was 19 or 20. I think it was 19.
So you're driving a car. You're old enough. You're not like a teenager.
I had great health insurance from working at UPS. Okay. That was the worm on the hook for UPS. Like, hey, we don't pay you well, but we give you incredibly good health insurance. So I ended up driving I'd go back to Salem, drop off a buddy, and then I'd go to Silverton to go to the hospital. Because for some reason, I heard that Silverton had a good hospital. Yeah. Go there, and they do a bunch of scans. I had torn my ACL. I had split my meniscus, which is the cartilage between the knee. I had split that in half, and I had chipped my tibia all in one. And so it needed surgery. I get surgery. It was like it was $35,000, and I think I only had to pay $500 of that. So really, really fortunate for the health benefits. And then from there, they said 6 to 7 months of recovery, no riding BMX. And also, the doctor said, you can't ride BMX anymore. That's done. And my mom was with me. Right. My mom was with me when they said this, and she kind of chuckled, and she's like, you don't understand. Like, my mom pretty much knew at this point. Well, she had known. I mean, I've been wanting to ride BMX for so long. So it was very depressing point in my life, because I had to go. So I had moved out at this point. I was 19, so I didn't move out until I was 21. Yeah. And so this thought of having to be at home all day long for 6 months. And I lived in Marion, which most people just say Turner because nobody knows where Marion is. Marion is in between Turner and Jefferson.
Okay, middle of nowhere.
Yes, and I lived up on a hill, a mile-long hill, and so I was there for 6 months, just in bed, bedridden, taking 800 milligrams of ibuprofen and some other stuff that clogs you up. So it's not a fun time. Highly, highly depressed. So the only motivation I had was to get better. So I would walk my bike up and down that 1 mile road. It was pretty steep. So I'd walk it up and down about twice a day just to get out of the house. I can't stay in the house. Yeah. I still can't to this day. I'll get cooped up and I'll go crazy. And so I ended up recovering 3 weeks ahead of time.
No kidding.
But all my friends, I didn't have very many people that came and visited me. So that was part of the depressing point. There was a girl that came in and visited me, which was really nice. And she was super sweet about it. And I did have a couple other friends that would come and, pick me up every now and then, but not often enough to keep me from
For 6 months, you're almost all alone.
Yeah. So, so I recovered, and I just got back on the bike, and I had to wear a brace, which was pretty intrusive to riding. It would get caught on my seat. It was a metal brace. I would still crash with it, and the metal brace would get like sharp. So it was funny. I would like peel oranges with my brace because it would just get so sharp from like crashing. That was the worst injury. I've had 3 concussions though. Both my hands have been fractured. The knee one though is the only one that was kind of a cool crash. All the other ones were just stupid. Like just small flukes that you weren't even trying to do anything cool. And that's how most injuries happen. Is just, you're not even trying anything big. It's just a small fluke. So yeah, I already feel all the pain from my bad decisions. And I can only imagine what it's going to be like when I hit 50 or 60. I'm going to be crippled.
We'll see. Yeah. Hey, we're going to switch gears here. we're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about, I want to know, how'd you meet your wife? And tell me your wife's name.
Addie.
Addie. How'd you meet her? What did you like about her? What were the characteristics about her that you thought, this is what I want?
Okay.
And then what is the answer to a godly marriage? Because no marriage is perfect, right? But what does it mean to have a good marriage, bad marriage, or a godly marriage?
Boy, I gotta figure out how to make this not a long story. But I met Addie through a period in my life when I was not wanting a girlfriend. I had been searching for a while, gone on many dates. The dates would go good, and then I would get ghosted. Just no calls back. They'd quit texting me. I was also about a year or two into Kona Ice. And so part of me thought that was a curse, because when I would explain to these women what I did to make money, I think they thought I was like a carny, like just running a shaved ice or a snow cone trailer. And so after going through a couple of dates, I was like, okay, I need to tell people something different, because I think I'm scaring away people thinking I'm a carny. So Addie had added me on Instagram randomly. And at this period in my life, I was not interested in dating. I was going through some family hardship, also running a business, and it's a very new business. So I'm not making a whole lot of money. And I definitely don't, I just don't have time for it. And the family thing was really causing a lot of mistakes with my business, because I was just overwhelmed with just drama that was going on. And so Addie had added me on Instagram. I saw her ad. Saw her profile. I was like, oh, she's pretty good looking. That was it. I didn't pursue it. And she had also worked for Gilgamesh at the time, and I had been doing events with Gilgamesh people. So I just thought she was one of the girls that had maybe traded a snow cone for a cider or something like that. And then a month later, she sends me a message because I had been at this point, I was driving through neighborhoods when I didn't have events, kind of like an ice cream truck. It was the worst time. It was not comfortable for a single young man, just being like, hey kids, like, you got money, stuff like that. And so I had posted a picture of me doing those routes, and she commented on it, and it started some small talk, and then eventually led up to us meeting in person. And so the first time we met, we were going to go on a hike, and she was late to meeting up, and she also met at the wrong location. So I thought I was getting ghosted again. And so we end up meeting, we get to the right location. I was, really nice throughout the whole time, because I knew that she was also a single mom. And man, I can only imagine what it's like to go back into the dating scene. So she gets out of the car, and she's taller than me. She's like a model. And all I could think was like, how am I going to pull this off? I'm 5'9", she's like 5'10", 5'11". There's no way. So I immediately just give her a hug. Just to kind of set the tone, like, hey, I'm not a creep. This is really me. And then she ends up having me drive to Silver Creek Falls. We met up at the Winco off of Lancaster.
Yeah.
So we drive there, and she just basically lays out her whole life. Just, this is me. Take it or leave it. This is all the things I've been through. She did not leave anything out, untouched. And I thought that was really courageous of her, just let it out to a stranger. She also knew I was a Christian, so I think there was like a little bit of safety to that. So it went well, and obviously we ended up getting married. But side quest on this story, the reason she found me is because one day after her shift, she went to there was a place downtown Salem, like a small kind of hippie bar. I can't remember what it was called. Something. Anyway, so she was getting a drink by herself, like a small glass of wine, and a guy had approached her and talked to her, and then ended up wanting her number. And she was smart enough. Well, she's always been smart, but she was like, "How about you give me your number?" And that way she could call this guy on her own. Well, months go past, and she's like, "All right, maybe I'm ready to get into the dating scene." And she wanted to go look up this guy on Facebook. This guy's name was Nelson. And it wasn't me. So she had seen I had a profile picture on Facebook of me being at this bar that she had met this other guy named Nelson. And so she thought we were the same person. And so for whatever reason, she didn't bother to text the number she was given. She just thought we were the same person. And so one of the first texts or messages through Instagram when she had reached out to me and we were doing the small talk, she was like, funny story. We actually have met before at a bar. I was like, that is a funny story because I haven't been to a bar in a long time. So
That's funny.
She's like, so this isn't your number? And I was like, nope. But I don't know. It's such a crazy story. You know, I even tried looking up this other Nelson, and I couldn't find any other Nelsons out there except for someone that was a Nelson and he was black. So I was like, well, that can't be it.
I know Nelson Lomax.
Yeah, do you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so
he's in the mortgage industry too.
So that's probably the only other Nelson I could find.
Yeah.
So I mean, part of me wants to be like, you know, well, I did think like, was Addie making this up? Or like, is this like an act of God? You know, was it like an angel? Does this guy even like really exist? So, like I said, super long story, trying to cut it short, really hard to do with just how their circumstances worked out. I really think, I always joke that we need to get like a little, you know, animated book on how we met, because trying to explain this to people, there's just so many details, and trying to leave it out is incredibly hard, but we just were lucky, man. I do know that God put in my life, for a reason. And I know many of those reasons now is to teach me patience and love.
Yeah.
She's a very loving person, and we are polar opposites. That is for sure.
What do you mean when you say polar opposite? What does that mean?
She is easy to forget the past. I will hold on to the past. She is quick to love. I'm not always quick to love. I'm learning. Always patient. And so we're just opposites in a lot of ways. But we both are deeply in love with Christ. So that does help. And you know, we're all on our different journey. Obviously, I'm reading a lot more right now than she is, which can sometimes annoy me because, you know, I want her to be doing the same thing that I'm doing. But everybody's on their different path. But yeah, I think it's actually perfect that we are opposites, because we can help each other strengthen in, you know, different parts of our life that we need to work on. Mine being patience.
Yeah. You know, as the man of the house, you're the leader. You know, you're not better than your wife, but you have a role that God's placed you in as a leader. And oftentimes when your wife and kids, you know, aren't following suit, sometimes it's that we're not stepping up as the leader the right way.
Yes.
You know, hypocrisy is do as I say, not as I do. You know, whether your mom got the degree and didn't do the job, and you're like, well, why should I go to college if I'm not going to do that? You know, we all do that a little bit. We all have a little bit of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I sure wish Nelson would read his Bible more. Like, well, am I? Or I wish my wife would, you know, am I? And so,
see, I would say that's my strength. And I think that does come from partially my mom wanting me to go to college, and she did, but she never used her degree. So, and just I did have a huge problem with people being hypocrites around me. So for me, like in my house, if I tell you like, hey, don't leave your shoes on the ground, put them away, I will make sure that I am the first to do that and be it. So I do a good job of leading by example, but there is a lot of moments where it's small things that I should just leave alone. Right. And that is something that I've been learning. Like, is this something I need to address, or is it okay to just let it be? And a lot of that is just coming from reading scripture and just from advice from you. So, but as far as leading by example, I am a professional to do that. I will do it first, and I will be the example. And you know, maybe that's opposite my wife. She'll be sometimes forgetful.
Right. Have you ever heard the story? A lady brings her little boy to Gandhi, let's just say. I think that's the story. And she's talking to Gandhi. She goes, hey, Gandhi, can you help my son stop eating sugar? And he goes, come back and see me in 2 weeks. Okay, that's weird. So she comes back in 2 weeks. And she goes, okay, how are you going to help my son stop eating sugar? He goes, well, first of all, I had to stop eating sugar before I could teach your son how to do it. So let's begin, basically. So it's just kind of, you can't expect someone else to do something you haven't yet done.
Yes.
Right? That doesn't work for me either. Like, yeah, I'm not following you, because you know, even people who write a book, like, but are they actually doing the thing that they're talking about in the book? That's always my question. But hey, what's maybe your favorite Bible verse when you think of, I don't know, marriage, God, Jesus? Do you have like a favorite Bible verse that you go to?
I always think of Ephesians 2:8 and 9, mainly because I'm just so thankful that we don't have to earn our way into heaven, because I would never make it. And that was something that Frank Turek talked a lot about, was and I tell them because this quite often, or my stepchildren, I tell them, well, they are my kids, but I tell them this a lot. Like, we are so thankful that we had, Jesus make the example, because there's never a day where we don't have a bad thought or act badly against someone. And if that were the case, we would all be doomed. And so Ephesians 2:8-9 just really sticks to me, because it just lays it out like, you cannot get into heaven by works, but by faith and faith alone.
Amen. Amen. I'm going to challenge you to just continue and memorize 10 also.
Yes, I remember we talked about this. Yeah.
But so Ephesians 2:8-9, yeah. I love that. Was by faith you've been saved through faith through by grace.
By grace, not of your own. It is a gift of God by works of righteousness, lest anyone should boast.
Amen, amen, amen. And then you and I are going through the book of James, which is challenging.
I started it, haven't gone through it yet.
Hey, that's okay. Yeah. Again, we do a blueprint of what we want to do. And by the way, I had to do it. If I'm asking you to do it, I've got to read through James in one sitting. I've got to study James 1 and memorize a verse. So, yeah, I'm working on it too. Haven't arrived, right?
Yeah.
So there's no judgment. There's just like, we're two beggars telling each other where to find bread, right? That's what we're doing. When did you come to know Christ, and how do you know?
I came to know Christ through Awanas at a young age. I was probably also 6 or 7. I was old enough to be, understanding of Jesus, and so I'd let Christ into my life at a young age, but and I will say that this is something that I feel like the church is doing a better job of these days, is teaching us why we believe that. And then what is the concrete evidence on why we believe what we believe. So at a young age, I did believe, but I wasn't given the concrete evidence on why we believe that. So it wasn't until, probably close to being 30, if not 30, when I had read Frank Turek's book, because I knew I hadn't read any books. I hadn't finished any books, any like big books. And so I had started following Frank Turek, and I was like, all right, I'm going to buy this guy's book because he speaks to me, very well. And then after reading his book, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And he gives like the scientific background and the spiritual background. I felt like I had concrete evidence. And if someone would ask me why I believe in God, I could articulate that better versus like beforehand, I would probably get stumped a lot and be like, well, it's just how I feel, and I know he exists, and I know we don't come from monkeys. So, but yeah, I would give it up to Frank Turek on just really, settling me in on, yes, like 100%. So I was probably 99%, 100% now.
Well, I mean, when we're 6 years old, can we really comprehend, that Jesus died on the cross, said, hey, you're a sinner and you need a savior? I mean, well, yeah, mommy or daddy, yeah.
Well, especially at 6, because everything is portrayed as PG through the Bible. But anybody that's read the Old Testament knows that it is not PG.
It's not PG.
There are some rough passages in there that are like rated R. And I'm like, wow, we didn't learn this in Bible school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think as a kid, you kind of somewhat understand. But I understand why, Sunday school wasn't going into depth about some of the Old Testament, because it'd be maybe a little bit inappropriate.
Totally get that. So you love your wife. Is that what you'd say?
Yes, sir.
And you love your kids. What do you want your wife and your kids to learn from you today? If you had to maybe sum it up in a sentence or a thought.
Oh, man. I don't know. That's kind of a hard one to think on the spot. What would I want them to learn today from me, or just
about you? Maybe what your thoughts are, your legacy, what you hope that they get from you.
I think a lot about the decisions I make, and I think too much. I can get caught up in my own head, just going back and forth whether that's the right decision or not. But I will say I do think a lot about my decisions, and I try to also, reach out to God on like, if I made a decision, was that the right decision? And if it not, please soften my heart and let me know.
Yeah.
And I do think it's incredibly important to admit when you're wrong, which I just did to my wife last night. I had to admit, and apologize for something that was, how I approached something. And it doesn't feel good for some reason, but I think the more we practice that the better it is. And I don't know why it's such a hard thing sometimes to admit when you're wrong, especially there's nothing worse than being an adult and having to admit to a child that you're wrong, because I feel like for me, I'm like, they're going to remember this and then now they're going to hold it over my head. But I think just for me, maybe it is just like lead by example. I think that's gotten me really far in life, is leading by example. I know it did at Dutch Brothers. Me and Justin Burke always ran a really tight ship. And I think it was mainly because we were good leaders by example. Whereas other stands, maybe just weren't, because it's Dutch Brothers, everybody's having a good time there. Yeah. But my time there was to learn and to be the best I could be a barista. Yeah.
No, that's good. I love that. Let's end on this here note. We'll end on a fun note. Okay. You love disc golf, and you say you're addicted to it.
Absolutely addicted, yeah.
So that your BMX addiction went to disc golf?
Yeah.
Is that true?
I just saw the writing on the wall. I was told that I couldn't ride my bike anymore, and I did for 10 more years, and it definitely, my leg has definitely gotten worse. I wear a brace no matter what I do physical, just because it's, I only have half my cartilage in my knee. They took half of that out and they didn't replace it with anything else, which still doesn't make any sense to me. So I knew that it would just take one small mistake and I would be in big trouble. And I work on the Kona trucks a lot on my own. So if I can't work, then who's making the money? So I chose to give that up. I miss it every day. I still watch a lot of people that ride. I still have my bike. I'll probably never get rid of it just because I'll never get the money for it that I put in. Yeah. It was the most expensive bike I ever made. It was, I had always had pre-made bikes and I never had a custom bike. This is the first custom bike I ever had in my life. And I only got to ride it for like 2 or 3 years.
How much do you think you're invested in that?
2,000.
2,000. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was built from the ground up. Anyway, so I gave that up. I had played disc golf here and there. And so I just was like, all right, well, I'm just going to play this. This is really the only thing I can do that's outside and physical. I have to be outside and I have to be physical. So disc golf was both of those things, and it was cheap. It's
free, right? There's no cost.
For the most part, if you do play on a private course or like a state course, it's usually $5-10
versus $30 or $60 in golf and golf clubs.
My gosh, yeah, and discs range from like $5 to $25 at most, or unless you're like a crazy lunatic that'll pay $100 for a disc, which I don't. Yeah. So I just do that a lot. It keeps me in shape because I get a lot of walking, a lot of throwing. Yeah. But I've been playing disc golf for probably close to 10 years, but not actually playing except for like the last 4 when I learned all the technique. So I've just been really involved with that. Tried to get my wife into it. She didn't really care. My stepson is pretty good at it. So it kind of gives us a place to bond. Yeah. So
good for you, man. Well, we're going to end on that note, but if somebody wanted to hire you, Nelson, for your Kona Ice business, I know we're heading into wintertime. Are you still working through the winter? Do you shut down completely?
I try. I have a miniature unit that goes indoors. It was actually designed to fit through a single wide door. That way they built it around schools. So that way schools didn't have to take out the center divider on a double door. Yeah. We can just go through the single door. Yeah. So I got that unit with hopes that I could be busy through the wintertime, but there's just not a lot in my area. So I only operate in the Linn-Benton County. So there's not a whole lot of indoor stuff going on there. Schools don't use this enough. I definitely think it's a West Coast thing when it comes to school system. We don't have great schools. And for my business, we do a lot of fundraising for schools. So I come out for free and I give you 20% of what I made. So I'm basically paying you to have me out for a fundraiser outside of, corporate stuff or birthday parties. Yeah. Cool. Well, brother, we're going to wrap up now and sign off. But hey, just want to say thank you for listening this week. Really appreciate Nelson being here, sharing his story, and hopefully you're encouraged. If you ever want to be on the podcast, we'd love to hear from you and have a conversation. You can reach out to me. My number's in the show notes or my email, and I'd love to hear from you. But just want to say thanks to Nelson for being here. Thanks for having me, dude. It was awesome hearing your story, and at the end of the day, I love hanging out with you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the wisdom. I've been needing a lot of it. Yeah, we all have a history, and if God's called you, I see what I see in your life, and I want the audience to know is you're seeking the Lord. Yes, you really are. You're hungry for truth. You're hungry to grow. Me too. Like if you stop growing, you start dying. So
And that's really what this podcast is about, is just to encourage people. So
I will say one quick thing is, it's been a very rough year for me. And I caught myself, I was reaching out to God a lot, for answers. And I basically just heard him say, all the answers are in the Bible. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start my mornings first thing before social media, anything else. I'm going to start reading the Bible, and I have, it's all there. You just need to put yourself in it. And then I've, been looking out to people like you and other men just to give me guidance, because that's what I'm needing a lot right now.
Yeah. Well, you and I are going to be meeting here in about a week or so, I think, for another meeting.
Yes, sir.
So look forward to it. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next week.